As a Pan-Africanist and a mother of multicultural children, I think that all of us, Africans living in the West, have a duty to shine a light on the positive and honorable stories of where we come from and about our ancestors. The Western education system will not do it for us, not when even Africa's own education system actually doesn't. The Adwa victory and its celebration is one such event worth passing on to future generations. Here in the West, we celebrate it as our annual ritual by watching a short documentary. The idea is to instill in my children a consciousness that the freedom we enjoy today was paid for in blood and sweat by our ancestors. As Marcus Garvey said, a person without history is like a tree without its roots. But I ask myself, does history alone carry us to go forward? What is the reality in Ethiopia today? Is Ethiopia living up to its historical standard of Pan-Africanism? Because as it is, we are in the midst of a paradox that even kids are aware of. Imagine my 7-year-old remarking, "The world respects Ethiopia, but Ethiopia is not respecting herself." Now that hit me hard, like hard. Buckle up your seat and join me in my thoughts.
The Ethiopian victory at Adwa against Italians was an African victory.
Ethiopia, the only African country not to be colonized during the period of High Empire.
No other civilization in Africa and Asia celebrates a victory over imperialism.
That in itself, the fact that it was never colonized, says so much about the aspirations, as Africans that we need to have, and I guess we had.
Because of this Adwa victory, it was significant not only for Ethiopia, but for Africans around the world. It was a fountain of pride and a source of inspiration for millions.
In the Adwa victory, our parents put aside their tribal, religious, and regional differences to defend our independence. Today, we are allowing our tribal, religious, and regional differences to endanger that independence and the very existence of Ethiopia as we know it. If that doesn't break your heart, then I don't know what else will. Not only because the unity in diversity that our parents demonstrated and sustained our independence, but also because it gave hope and pride to a whole continent and a race.
The Ethiopians from all provinces gathered with truth as protection, descended around Adwa with justice and honor and unity as their weapon.
Even as an Ethiopian in the diaspora, we have kept to the tradition of celebrating Adwa Victory Day every year, making sure to pass on the consciousness, knowledge, and pride to our children.
Adwa Victory Day, not only for Ethiopia, also Africa Victory Day. Now we are living here in freedom, but our ancestors, they gave up their blood, their bones,
So you can imagine the heartbreak of explaining to your children why they are celebrating an event that is conflicted back home. So how did we arrive here? And to where do we now go? In light of the tribally driven internal contradictions we are facing as a people and as a country. As we celebrate the Adwa victory, we Ethiopians should reflect on this and other key questions. Why so? Because our present actions, the tribal conflicts, religious disputes, and regional state antagonisms are the complete opposite of the spirit of Adwa and the Pan-Africanism it inspired. In this context, I dare to ask you, my hearers, have we Ethiopians, we who are historically standard bearers and inheritors of the Adwa spirit, withdrawn into tribal cocoons and now only project Pan-Africanism as a smokescreen for fighting divisive tribal and religious wars? Whatever the case, the current tribal woes we are facing are unprecedented and very regretful. We are a nation whose ancestors gave their children and to a whole race and continent a great historical proof and example that patriotic, autonomous, tribal, cultural, and religious communities are the building blocks rather than stumbling blocks of a strong and prosperous nation. Ethiopia is an ancient civilization of over 3,000 years, not because we turned tribe against tribe, but because we worked together as tribes. But what are we doing today if not to undo everything and save our country? The skewed mainstream media has associated the war in northern Ethiopia with tribal undertones. As if that wasn't bad enough, only recently we have seen attempts at politicizing our religious denominations. How do you justify that? The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, Islam, and other indigenous religions are one of the stronger pillars that holds us as a nation. Now, if we are to break that string, then we are contradicting everything what Ethiopia is beautifully and uniquely known for in the global face. And that is sad. Then what? What remains of our country's soul? We have allowed tribalism to thrive and set our country on the primrose path toward, God forbid, destruction. It's a glaring reality. History proves it. Tribally driven conflicts leave only days, destruction, and balkanization of states. In Congo, tribalism produced conflict, leading not only to the fall and gruesome murder of independence leader Patrice Lumumba in 1961, but also to the rise of General Mobutu, a brutal dictator who, together with his Western patrons, plundered Congo for more than 3 decades. To date, Congo has never been the same. In 1994, in Rwanda, some politicians withdrew into their tribal cocoons. Remember what the result was? A genocide of almost 1 million members of a certain identifiable tribe. Rwanda has never been the same. The same thing happened in countless other countries you can think of worldwide. What am I trying to say? Here is my point. Unless we Ethiopians learn from the example of others and turn back to follow the true path of Pan-Africanism in theory and practice, we are doomed. For example, we shall be staring in the face of our country possibly disintegration into separate parts. We shall be setting ourselves up for long political turmoil. We shall be desecrating our cultural heritage and nurturing perpetual inter-ethnic suspicion, rivalry, and open hostility. And to sum it all up, we shall lose our place of respect in the committee of African and global nations. These likelihoods sink my heart. But who is to blame? What is the biggest obstacle to the national unity of Ethiopia and indeed other multi-ethnic African countries such as Nigeria and Congo? Is it tribes or is it opportunistic politicians? This is very important, and we must start asking questions if we are to find sustainable answers. Is the problem the Afar, the Tigrayans, the Oromos, the Amhara, the Somalis as tribes? Or is the problem the opportunistic politicians? And in addition to that, is tribalism by all accounts the only divisive force in Ethiopia today? Or are leaders at the regional and national levels being pulled and pushed in different directions by foreign powers? Whither, Ethiopia? To what place are we going from here? Pan-Africanism or tribalism? Peace, love, light.